Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on Interior Wellness. My name is Elizabeth, and I am so excited to be joined today by Natalie Saari. She is a yoga teacher and kinesiologist. I've known her for many years, and I think she's an absolutely wonderful teacher and also a person who has so much depth of knowledge about the body. And she has a real passion for teaching, not only in her local community, but also globally, where she leads retreats. So I'm thrilled to be able to talk to her today. So warm welcome, Natalie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I would love to start off by learning or sharing with our audience a little bit about your background with kinesiology. I think that this is a really amazing and important thing as a yoga teacher to have that background that you have. So how did you come about your learning in kinesiology, and how did you get to be where you are today?
Yeah, it was many, many years ago. I studied human kinetics or kinesiology in university, and that's actually when I started discovering the yoga practice as well. I hadn't practiced yoga as a teenager, but I entered university at about 17 years old, so I was still curious, and my body was still growing and changing, and I had a lot of stress and was very overloaded, as most students are. And I found this yoga class, and at that time it was a means for relaxation and an ability for me to reset and really connect with myself. So it really helped me through studies. And as I went through the motions of studying human anatomy and physiology, once I completed the degree, I did some studies in China, and that introduced me into Chinese medicine and the martial art kind of side of things. So again and again, I was encountering these experiences of the body, biomechanics, health, human movement, energy movement, and all signs kind of pointed to yoga and healing. So I pretty much studied yoga right after I finished university and kind of continued studying both ever since.
So right from the beginning, you were studying the body in a university setting, but then you were also studying yoga in the body in alternative settings. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And more exploring within myself. There's a lot of you know, svadhyaya or self-study from a younger age, and I didn't really know that I was doing that at that time. Now I can look back and see how I was really peeling the layers back and trying to uncover my truth and my inner calling, and over the years of studies and practices and disciplines, it's really helped me to uncover this and piece it all together as one puzzle.
So how do you, as a kinesiologist, if you're working with people, teaching yoga is one thing, but you also work one-on-one with people as a kinesiologist. Do you bring the yoga into that?
Yes, absolutely. I at first, and this was probably a decade ago, the field of kinesiology wasn't as common within British Columbia. So we would work closely with doctors and physiotherapists and chiropractors and provide care in a rehab setting, a clinical setting. So I'd be providing exercise prescription, but I would catch myself giving them exercises that were in fact yoga poses, breathing practices, and they were two of the same. I just wasn't allowed to call it yoga at that time. So over the years of developing this rehab program that I do today, eventually I started to say, yeah, this is yoga. We're incorporating yoga therapy into your overall therapy. And then the goal with that, doing it one-on-one, of course, very specific to the body and the illnesses or injury. And then once they reach a certain phase and they're ready to, step out into the community, they're ready and they can move into a regular yoga practice safely and effectively for their body. And so that was always my goal with that, enhancing their body and also using it as a bridge into the community. So it took a while to have for people to be really supportive of that. At first it was, oh, yoga, that hokey yoga, and not maybe seeing it as a clinical practice at that time. And now it's really embraced, and we have a lot of supporters in the community, from doctors and lawyers and all kinds of specialists that want the yoga more than anything. So it's really made a shift in the direction I wanted it to go, but it took some time.
It is amazing how much over the past 10 to 15 years that yoga has really taken hold. And it used to be something that's like, what's, yoga's for, those hippies or whatever. And now doctors are recommending, you have back pain, go do yoga. Oh, you've got this kind of pain, go to a yoga class.
Absolutely.
So at what point in your journey did you take the plunge and become a yoga teacher?
So I began teaching when I met you around that time. So 2006, I believe. So about 10 years ago now. And I originally just started it, one, because I enjoyed it. And it was more of a hatha style practice with some vinyasa. And I did that for a few years at a few different places within the community. And I always wanted more and more authenticity with the teachings and the traditions. So I went to India and studied Ashtanga yoga, which was a wonderful experience, very disciplined, wonderful experience. And so I practiced that for a while. And then again, coming back to my kinesiology background, Ashtanga yoga isn't necessarily accessible for all people. And when I'm so used to working people one-on-one and really providing, guiding in a way that the yoga is very accessible for them, I found that hard to commit to just teaching that style. So I then did some more study. I found a teacher, or we found each other, it just came together so organically, by the name of Suzanne Slocum-Glory. And she has been one of my biggest mentors and is a dear friend as well now. And with her master teacher training program, it encompassed a little bit of everything, with different styles of yoga, hatha, some vinyasa, of course, and then even into restorative and yoga therapy, meditation practices. Oh, the list goes on. The things that we dove into, and Anusara was a big part of that too, looking into heart centers. So it just really filled my cup really nicely, and helped to answer a lot of questions that I had about yoga and myself. And then it made me realize more and more that there's so many different ways that we can offer yoga. So, for me, providing it through therapeutic avenues, through kinesiology, rehab, but also yoga off the mat, doing karma service projects and things within the community, yoga within some of the work that I do in the hospital with cardiac patients, and mental health, people that suffer from depression and anxiety. So I basically branched it out to people in need that could benefit from yoga. And it was thanks to all of those trainings, and there's lots of other wonderful teachers I've worked with too along the way that have helped to provide those teachings that I needed. So now I'm sharing them.
I always love hearing about the journey of a yoga teacher. I mean, you have a student come to your class and they think this is just a 1-hour class, and they have no idea that you have 20 plus years of in-depth study into the body and its mechanics and yoga, and we're so lucky to have your depth of wisdom.
Oh, that's very good.
I want to speak a little bit more about yoga for pain and conditions and yoga therapy. So can you tell us about how you use yoga and how anybody could use yoga for specific chronic pain?
Absolutely. Yoga can be therapeutic in so many different ways. It's very individual. It depends on what you're looking at with respect to the therapy of the individual. If it's myofascial injury or biomechanical issue. Then, of course, you look at the anatomy and physiology of the body, where there's imbalances, weakness, tightness, and address it in a way that providing essentially exercises or postures or tools to help balance out the body or that issue. On a more of a mental or psychological side of things, looking at conditions such as depression, anxiety, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, yoga can be extremely powerful. Once people are able to connect with themselves and learn some self-regulation tools, breathing practices to help calm the body when feeling anxious or when feeling really low, how to uplift. So I think the most important part of yoga therapy is identifying what is the problem and then therefore creating a solution. So I take a systematic approach like I would with kinesiology in a clinical setting, but you can certainly do it in a really gentle way and make it really personal for that person. And at the end of the day, when people are practicing yoga, they're practicing their own yoga therapy for themselves. If they're connected, if they're focusing on the breath and experiencing their body and focusing on non-harm.
It's an amazing thing that I found with yoga is that sometimes somebody will come into a class because they feel like, oh, I'm not flexible, or I have a sore back or a shoulder problem, and they get sent to a yoga class. And just like you were saying, next thing you know, their mind is calmer, or they're feeling better in their soul, and they're a happier person. So yoga therapy stretches far beyond the physical, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And there's many people practicing yoga therapy now. There's different schools and trainings and physios and kinesiologists that have done some yoga therapy training, and they're taking it into sort of similar to what I'm doing. And there's so many different ways to incorporate it. And I'm so happy and thrilled that the community, everyday people are going there and they're open to it. Because there's so many ways that we can utilize the tools of yoga in everyday life.
It's so true. So can people work with you one-on-one?
Yes, absolutely.
And what does that look like for a person?
Well, it doesn't have to be, I do a lot of work with claims. So if someone's been in a motor vehicle accident or a workplace accident, so that can be quite a lengthy rehab process. And I can work with a person for 3 months to couple of years. But I do have people that will approach me in the studio and just say, hey, I have this issue and I'm trying to develop a home practice, and I'd like to have some guidance of what I should be doing and what I shouldn't be doing, and maybe some new ways that I could explore some of these things, and then knowing how I can practice in a class and not make my condition any worse. So I can spend, a couple sessions with a person and go over those principles and review it and make sure they're comfortable, and then they can continue on their own.
Right, so they can come to you one-on-one, and they can also join in group classes. What's a group class like?
Right, so there's, I have a therapeutic yoga program, and we call it the Therapeutic Program because it isn't just yoga. It is a class that involves asana and meditation and breathing practices, but the focus of that particular program, it's specialized in chronic pain. So anybody who's sustained some sort of pain in the body, whether that's physical or emotional, for greater than 6 weeks is considered chronic. So many people suffer from chronic pain. It's really becoming quite an epidemic. So I do a lot of work with people one-on-one with that type of care. But at some point, you can't work with a person one-on-one forever, and transitioning into the community can be a challenging process and quite intimidating to just step into a yoga class knowing you have this condition and maybe feeling nervous, anxiety, low confidence. The list goes on there. So providing a space that invites people into a group where they can practice together with similar concerns or issues, and working through a practice, getting comfortable with the process, and then from there they can essentially graduate into regular community programming. So that's essentially the main project I have as a bridging program in the community, which has been really extremely successful the last couple of years. It's really it's working, so that's great.
I think that's important. Sometimes what keeps a person out of a yoga class is that intimidation factor, like, oh, I can't touch my toes, or oh, I'm too sore, I have this injury. But if they know you and have worked with you, then they can graduate into your classes. I think that's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. And then you start to introduce a few other classes, a gentle class, a restorative class, or start playing tennis again, or whatever it is. They can slowly start to add on to their plan and have a little bit of guidance throughout that 6 weeks. So.
Yeah. I like what you said about chronic pain, anything more than 6 weeks. If we did a survey of the people viewing this and people around us in our community right now, I bet you if they scanned through their bodies and said, is there somewhere I feel pain? I bet you 95% of people would say, yes, I have some kind of pain in my body.
Yes, and the pain cycle is a really fascinating process. We could talk about that a whole other time because it's so massive and interesting, but yeah, we experience pain in our bodies in different ways for different reasons, and sometimes it's very unexplainable and very complex. So having that support and guidance and learning tools to self-manage our own self is exceptionally powerful.
Mm-hmm, very important. So it's obvious that you're really passionate and knowledgeable about chronic pain and yoga and working with people with injuries and conditions. And there's some other things that you're passionate about too, like the Yoga4Youth. Can you tell us some of the other areas of yoga that you enjoy teaching?
Yes, well, because I've been working with injured, ill, broken adults all day long, which is wonderful, I started to look a little bit more at the root of the problem. I guess there's some things that we've been maybe dealing with for long periods of time that later in life turn into big problems that take a lot to heal from. So again, another major issue right now in the world is the drastic increase of depression and anxiety and mental health in children. And I've been working with teens and youth for quite a few years with yoga. In a yoga studio. Most of them have yoga parents, and they're these wonderful little yogis, and absolutely love working with them. But I noticed that was a small group of youth, and there's so many kids out there that could benefit from yoga. And I started to look at it a little bit more and realize, it's just not accessible for a lot of kids and families. And then the more I thought about it, I realized the ones that don't have access, the ones that aren't able to come to a yoga class or a yoga program, they're the ones that probably need it the most. So I did some studies with Vinyasa Yoga4Youth, which is a partnership with One Yoga Vancouver, and that's also a wonderful group of yogis that run that, really dear friends. They've done a lot of work with Yoga4Youth within the Vancouver area, within Saskatoon. They've developed these wonderful programs that have been amazingly successful within the community, within the school districts. So they have a Yoga4Youth at-risk training program for teachers or anyone who wants to work with youth. So after that study, I thought, wow, we really need that in our community. So I connected with our school district here, and we did a pilot project and ran a free after-school program for kids at a particular school that was more of a high-risk school for depression, anxiety, mental health, and other conditions. And yeah, it was super challenging and very different from the other youth programs that I've been offering. And it just made me realize more and more that there's more of a need for it. So at this moment in time, I'm in the process of developing a nonprofit organization to create these programs for yoga for youth at risk, and really any child is at risk. So we have lots of really great partners that are coming in on this. I have a team of teachers or potential teachers that would like to work with youth, and we'd like to get some programs running that are hopefully free for kids and families in need, so that they have the access to yoga. And it's not just going to be the physical yoga practice. That will be certainly a component, so they get some physical exercise as well. But having a big brother, big sister kind of relationship where they have mentors and friends and are able to have talks. We may even have a clinical counselor on site that will be there periodically to have chats with them if they need. So basically creating a space that'll be safe and sacred, a place to be a kid, to learn, to explore their body, and have a healthy snack that's accessible. So that's the plan, but there's a lot to do still.
Oh, thank you for doing that. That's a really special and amazing service to the community and to children and to families. I want to support you in that for sure. So you have all these things that you're doing as a yoga teacher and as a professional with the yoga for youth at risk and families and the chronic pain. Now there's something else that you do that's pretty special, and that is you lead retreats internationally. I want to hear a bit more about that.
Yeah, yoga retreats. I think it's probably, it's an absolute blessing to be able to offer a yoga week-long getaway where you can completely refresh and restore yourself in a beautiful place. So I do a lot of traveling, 2 to 3 months of travel every year, and I've been doing that for many years, but it would just be me traveling and exploring and often studying for a bit and then exploring a new area. And then I thought, this is really great that I'm exploring the world, but I'd love to share it with other people, because I'd come back and be trying to explain these experiences that I'd had, and pictures and stories don't always do it justice. And I thought, what? I have the ability that I can create that so that people can do that. They can have that experience, just with connections with certain places in the world, and being able to create a container to do those yoga practices, to have space and have the time for self-improvement. So I've decided to try to offer 1 or 2 a year. This year there's 3, so that we can do the work here within the community, and have an opportunity to completely remove from that. Because as beautiful as the yoga studio space is, or your home yoga practice space, mine's quite tiny, it's really something special to be in nature, fully immersed into nature, and have that time with yourself, to sit with self with no distractions of everyday life. To have more than more than 1 hour of a practice, to have 7 days of a few practices a day to reflect and come back and really rediscover yourself. So I take it really seriously too, with the preparations that I put into the retreats, and make sure that there's an adequate time for the uncovering, the unfolding, peeling the layers back, and when things arise, having the space and the support to work through those, and then rebuilding, remodeling, and filling the self up again. So it's a beautiful practice to have that week of retreat. And then also, of course, you're doing these wonderful activities like surfing and paddleboarding and walking along the beautiful beaches and hiking and meeting incredible people, making great friends. So I'm very honored to offer that type of experience, and I hope that I can keep doing that, 1 or 2 a year.
It certainly feels nice for people in the community to be able to go with somebody that they know or somebody that they know of, because Going to a foreign country can be intimidating if you've never been, but it can be such a special experience to go on a retreat with a group to an amazing new place. And it feels great if you can go with somebody who you know is an established person in the community. So we're lucky to have you doing these things. What countries are you going to this year?
Panama, in Cambutal in the south, and I've had one there before, and it's a beautiful, beautiful place. It's coming up pretty soon, though, the very end of November, beginning of December, and then April 1st in Bali. Bali is always absolutely incredible, so really looking forward to that as well.
Awesome, so exciting. So is there anything else before we sign off that you'd love to tell our audience?
I think we've covered quite a lot.
How about 3 amazing benefits of a yoga practice of any kind?
3 amazing benefits. Well, outside of the physical, because that's a given, I really love the benefit of an inhalation to enter into yourself and really enter a whole other world, exploring your inner world. 2, the exhale to completely release and let go, to be able to really let go, not only physical tension in the body with the exhale, but things that you've been holding on to. That practice is so beneficial and so powerful. And then, of course, in between both of those is the ability to be fully present and to be still, to actually be experiencing what is. I think those are the 3 most important things for me, for sure.
Wow, thank you. Simple and so very true. So we are absolutely lucky to have you sharing this wisdom and knowledge with us today and in our community. If people want to get in touch with you and perhaps take a yoga class with you or one-on-one sessions, how can they reach you?
Probably the easiest is just through the website, nataliesaari.com, or by email or phone, or you could just come and find me and I'll give you a big hug.
So we'll put all the links below this video so that everybody can click on and check out your beautiful website, which is as gorgeous. I love it. And they can email or call you and see how they can connect with you and get more information and perhaps join one of your programs. So thank you, Natalie, so much. I think you're amazing and you're a wonderful woman and an incredible teacher, and I'm honored to know you. And I'm excited that you joined me today and got on this call. I'm really happy and I'm grateful for your time.
Oh, thank you too. You're doing such a wonderful thing for us to spread the words of yoga to the world through your amazing magazine and this.
Oh, thank you. So thank you so much, Natalie, and thank you everybody for taking the time out to watch this. We love sharing with you. If you know somebody who maybe has chronic pain or youth at risk or wants an international yoga retreat or might benefit from what Natalie has to say to us today, please send this video to them so that you can share it also. And thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.